Recording. Hi, everyone. Tina Spalding Trance Channel here today. I am here today with my good friend, Sherry Oler. That's how you say your name, right? Have I ever heard you say it? Okay, yep. Sherry Oler. I've decided to do some conversations with people who have been employing A Course in Miracles principles into their life. And I met Sherry, I don't know, 4 years or going on 5 years ago. She attended one of my retreats on Salt Spring in Canada and has kind of taken A Course in Miracles into her life. And we're good friends now and speak often about life and the Course and what's going on in this crazy old world of ours. So I just wanted to have a conversation with her about how the Course came into her life, why she decided to start implementing its principles. You know, it's a big project to study the Course, and it's always interesting to me what precipitates that choice to do 365 daily lessons. It's a big deal. So thanks for joining me, Sherry.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so happy to be here, Tina. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now you live in the East Coast of America, right?
Yes, I live in South New Jersey, a town called Lumberton. So it's very farmland, rural-ish.
Oh, okay, cool. So how did the Course start coming into your life? What made you think, oh, what's that?
Well, I was kind of going through this phase of my life. I recently retired from the Army. And so I was at my second to last assignment. And I was a professor of military science at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and found myself in this role, like mentoring college students, of course, teaching them leadership and Army tactics and all the, what went along with the military science piece of it. But I was also like opening myself up to spirituality. And I was going to a Unitarian church in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I still felt like hungry for more. I wasn't satisfied with that. And I was following Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon, and Daniel Scranton, who channels the Arcturians, in my YouTube feed. So more channelers started coming into my feed. And then I discovered your work. So I was like, wow, okay, this is different, because you were the only one that had video of yourself channeling.
Oh, so that's interesting. I didn't know that. I thought everybody did videos, but they were just doing audio, hey?
It was audio. They would have some picture showing, or some, so I was like, wow, that's what's happening when these people are doing this. And anyway, so over and over Jesus kept mentioning the Course. So I bought the book and I tried to read it cover to cover, which is like horrible. And my whole mind started like wigging out. And then and then I don't know. I think once you have this book, I have it right here with me. Once it's in your vicinity, it's like alive, like it starts doing its magic, activating you. And so I started having these really like troubling experiences, actually, with I was at work and an employee actually filed a complaint against me for being like a toxic leader. It was a crazy situation. And as the Course was like seeping more into my consciousness, going through that experience, when it was over, she and I kind of had this really beautiful moment in my office where I was doing like a ho'oponopono with her. Like, I'm really, really sorry. I was attacking you. I feel like we kind of like brought this shitty part out of each other. And and I was like, oh my God, like regular Army Sherry would never have handled it that way. It's all professional business.
You saw yourself beginning to behave differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing that I noticed when I first got the Course, within the next day, actually, after I started reading it, I'm like, what is this weird blue book? My sister had bought it and given it to me. But I was like, I don't understand this book or whatever. But the first night I had a very, very vivid dream that was about connection and communication. Then I started, there was a person, it was actually a guy I'd been hanging out with, and I was away for Christmas. I was visiting family. And I had this thing, oh, I need to phone him. Well, I never do that. I would never have phoned this person. So I got this urge to do something. I was like, this is very strange. I would never do this. So I noticed it very soon as well. This was like, oh, Tina would, of course, I didn't know at the time how, I'll say how dangerous A Course in Miracles is, because it really does, it really should come with a warning. But it's going to change you. It's going to change you. Because so I didn't know anything about the course, whereas you had some idea of what it was going to be doing for you and to you, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was still so early in, I didn't quite tie all that together. I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, and all this attack defense energy started coming out of me. And then as the investigation was completed and nothing actually came of it, I noticed myself like really softening, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, something's changing me. So then I attended a couple more retreats. I'm pretty much like a Channeling Jesus retreat addict. So while I was in Arkansas, that's where I went to my first one in Salt Spring. And fast forward another year or two, I found myself in Costa Rica and Tulum. Right, yeah. So after Costa Rica, like a week later, my father passed away. And my entire life, this is kind of a weird confession, but I always imagined like when my dad died that I was going to like have this incredible dramatic, like, oh my God, and like freak out. And, you know, it was going to be insane. And like the day when I found out that he passed, I felt this like sense of peace and warmth. And, you know, like I handled it in a graceful way. And I knew, and I could feel that he wasn't in pain. He wasn't in that nursing home. And the other thing that happened on that day was I started feeling these like resentments that I had towards men, basically because I blamed my father for, you know, creating all of that in my life.
So he was gone now. And
yeah.
This now allowed something else to surface, right? You weren't projecting it onto him anymore. It was everywhere.
It dissipated, I let it go. And I was actually, this is kind of another interesting part of it, but I was with a guy the day my dad passed, someone I was dating. And I was trying to explain to him what it felt like. Like I can feel myself like letting you guys off the hook. I just want to let you know that.
He didn't even know he was on the hook.
No, he didn't. He's like, you know, speaking of defense and everything, but no, it was, so I knew that the course was working on me even more, because here I am going through this experience that I was sure was going to ruin me. And it actually was like healing me and like lifting me up. And it was beautiful.
So how did you find actually doing the lessons? Because when I did the lessons a long, long time ago now, I was living with somebody and a young woman, and we did the lessons together in the mornings. And then in the evenings, it was very interesting. We'd come together after our day had gone on and whatever had happened. And it was very fascinating to see that she and I were experiencing similar things from opposite ends of the spectrum, which was a very interesting, you know, because you don't always do A Course in Miracles with somebody, right? Like that whole year we lived together and did the course together. So we might be experiencing, for example, insecurity or whatever. And in my day, it would look very different than her day. And we'd be like, holy cow, that's so fascinating. We're both insecure or fearful or whatever the issue was, but it was manifesting in completely opposite forms. So that's a really interesting, that was a really interesting observation, that you could both be insecure, but one of you might be this and one of you might be that. So what was your experience of the course? Did you find it onerous? Did you enjoy it? Did you look forward to the lessons, or like, how'd it go?
I was using my military discipline to like force myself to do it, really, because I didn't understand the language, even though it spoke to me and it resonated at one level, like intellectually. But as far as like spiritually, I just wasn't there yet. So it was really, really frustrating first time through. And I was doing it incorrectly. I would try to do like 3 lessons a day and then take a break, or, you know, whatever I was trying to do. But when you started doing the lessons in 2019, and I was following along with the videos and the channeled messages, then it felt a little bit more like it was sinking in a little bit more, and I was actually remembering them. That's another thing. I was having a really hard time when I would go to work. I would have like Army Sherry, my personality, and then spiritual Sherry. So I feel like they started to come together in 2019.
Right.
And now this is the third time going through them. I can tell it's really, really a part of my consciousness, and it's making so much more sense. And it's why I want to like share it and teach people, because it didn't take that long. I mean, you have to get going with it, but then once it starts sinking in, it's like, oh.
Well, that's the thing about the course, is that, the ego is like, it really wants the silver bullet. It wants something quick. It's like, oh, you're feeling bad, have a big, good, stiff drink. That'll sort it out. But the fact is, from what I've observed, is a lot of people have, they would consider themselves spiritual, and yet throughout the day, they don't really have a practice that they employ to help solve their problems or deal with what's happening. And that's the thing that I see with the course is like you might read a spiritual book and you love it. I read many, many spiritual books before I did the course. But once you finish the spiritual book, it's sort of like, oh, I don't feel good again. I need another book. So you go find another book. And there's this sort of endless, because when you're in another book, you're actually in a different consciousness. You're in the consciousness of the author. So when you leave the consciousness of that author, you're now back in your own consciousness. And for a lot of people, that's not a comfortable place. So they go find another book. And that can be that, that addiction to reading, where you're just like, oh, I don't want to be in my life. I want to be in the heroine's life or the hero's life, right, in the book, because they're falling in love and they're successful and they're traveling around the world. And here I am sitting in my boring living room. So the thing I like to, encourage people to understand is that once you begin to incorporate A Course in Miracles teachings into your own mind, you now don't keep wanting to leave your own mind, which is really what most people want. They want out of their consciousness. And so that's why, TV watching and drug taking and all of that. And that's the thing that I found in my own experience. I mean, I'm far from perfect, and anybody who knows me knows that that's true, that I'm not perfect. But I can live in my mind now. And the other thing that's really beneficial, and it'd be interesting to hear your side of this, is I can figure out what's happening in my mind now if I'm upset, or if I'm sad, or if I'm in something's going on. I'm like, okay, I can figure out how I'm causing my own suffering. And this is really kind of one of the fundamentals of the course, is that you don't have to suffer, because all suffering is self-induced. And so the downside of that is, oh shit, I'm doing it to myself. The upside of it is you can change it. So how have you found the course helping you? Like, can you even think of an example where you're actually employing course principles to help stop your own personal suffering? Can you think of some place where you've done it?
Yeah, I mean, I keep talking about this on my videos, but all the stuff that's happening in the world today with the masking and the restrictions and everything, it's like, it's so in my face all the time that, and also the course like instantly speaks to me. Like if I start to feel judgmental towards a person who has a mask on and a mask on their child, like I feel a lot of discomfort and everything. And so I'm like, well, wait a second, Sherry, like they're on their own journey, and I'm projecting this because obviously I have such a tremendous amount of just upset around this whole thing, that basically if this works out the way that the course says it does, I'm creating that opportunity anyway. Like I cast those characters into my day in order to trigger me, so it could come up and bring to my attention, you still have work to do in this area.
Yeah.
So, and I also feel like just every time I encounter any person at all now, I think to myself, I want to be loving and kind and emanate that energy, because there are no coincidences. Mm-hmm. Just a random stranger that I see anywhere, make eye contact with or say hello to someone, it's like, oh, okay, here's another opportunity to like, push this loving, positive vibration out into the world. And combine energies with this other being, and hopefully we can, you know, have a moment of bliss or something. So
well, just
yeah,
just communion with that person, right? Instead of having all of our defenses block that communication, even if it's a smile.
yeah.
And I love that in the manual for teachers in the Course in Miracles, they talk, you know, maybe the only thing that that person could accept from you would be a smile. And that's love. You're sharing love with somebody. And that's really, as Course in Miracles students, that's our job, is to, you know, to remove the blocks that we have to our awareness of love's presence. And I think that's the cool thing, is that, you know, Jesus talks about that we're all Christed beings. We've just got so much dirt and shit layered on top of that, that we can't see it and we can't feel it. So we actually don't really have to do anything to become Christed beings. We have to just remove the layers of dirt, and that's done through this practice of forgiveness. So let's talk about forgiveness for a little bit, because that's such an interesting, you know, the traditional idea of forgiveness is you did something wrong. I'm going to, you know, I'm mad at you, but I'm going to forgive you and I'll try and be nice to you. I probably am keeping it in my mind, you know, as a resentment somewhere back there, but, you know, I'll say I've forgiven you. So the course definition of forgiveness is very different. This idea that the world is a grand projection, that means that it's all a part of the one mind. We're all connected to this movie that we're watching. And that the movie is coming from my mind. And therefore, if I attack the movie, I am in fact attacking my own mind. So that's the principle behind the quantum forgiveness of the Course, which means that once you have the awareness that you are the projector, and so that, you know, the classic example is if you're in a movie theater and something is, you know, there's a black mark on the screen, you go up and try and rub it off the screen, but it's actually coming from behind you, from the projector. So you're wasting your time trying to rub it from the screen. So this is the idea of not necessarily action in the world being the thing that you need to do, but cleaning the projector, which is your mind. That's the point of the lessons. We're cleaning the projector, which is our mind. So what's your biggest struggle with forgiveness? Where do you have the most trouble? Because I think everybody has, it might be a person, it might be a situation, it can even be something in ourselves, right, that we really have trouble forgiving. What's your biggest forgiveness challenge?
You know, it's so funny. As you're asking me that, my dog is like walking up to me and sniffing me. I think it's a tie between two things. My dog is going to be 14 at the end of February, and she's super healthy and energetic and awesome, but she has a couple of like lumps in her fur, you know, like little lipomas or whatever.
Yeah.
And there is this part of me that, because I'm such a health nut and I've been really focusing on myself, that how could my dog be developing these illnesses when she's around me and my energy? So it makes me question, like, I don't know, so much. And so I have to kind of remember that, again, like, I'm projecting all of this onto the screen, and I have to kind of let it go sometimes. Like, I'm trying to use food to heal her, and really she's probably completely fine, and it really isn't even about her. It's my own anxiety and
control issues, maybe?
Control issues. Yes, it's totally that. And I'm obviously I can't even talk about it. I'm still working through it, but
well, the thing is, if you're struggling with something, because this is a good little kind of mini little thing to talk about here, is radical acceptance of what's manifesting on her physical form is the way for you to stop suffering. So you're looking at those lumps on her and you're suffering.
Yeah.
But those are just physical things that they have no story attached to them. They are just lumps. You're attaching the story to the lumps, saying they're bad, they shouldn't be there, but they are there. So this is kind of one of those things about radical acceptance as a kind of form of forgiveness, is you are arguing with reality in that moment, right? Like your dog has lumps. Can you accept the fact that she has lumps and stay calm and loving? Because the frequency of you getting upset at lumps isn't going to help. Right. So that's kind of the microcosm of what we're all doing when we're judging reality. First of all, it already exists. So it's come into manifestation already.
Yes. Yes.
So then we're like, okay, well, if I'm mad at something that's already come into manifestation, I'm just arguing with reality, which is freaking pointless. It's a total waste of energy, really, right?
It is.
And then if you think about it from a Course in Miracles point of view, acceptance and love is going to be a much higher frequency for you to access the solution to the, if it is a problem, even. It could just be, this is what Mocha wants to experience. What if she wants to experience lumps?
Right. And like, that brings me to that place of like the control, like you're saying. It's like, I don't want her to have her own experience because I want to, well, first of all, I don't want her to ever go. I don't want her to suffer. But I think there is something to be said about me not allowing her to have her experience. And if she wants that, then I need to, allow all of it to happen and just love her. And I found myself lately when we're going on walks, just not looking in those areas and just trying to really enjoy the time together and see her having fun in the snow and just, letting go of my perceived responsibility.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say the other thing that I struggle with is 9/11. And it's like, my whole career was basically 9/11 to COVID. So you know how I feel about both of those issues. And it's like, I look at the clock many, many times and it's 9/11. It's like, it's always sort of coming up for me. So I think that at some point, I'm going to come to the place where it's like, I can be in acceptance, kind of like the situation with Mocha, and understand that this was part of my experience that I wanted to have, and really struggle with that, because truthfully, coming awake while I was still wearing a uniform and seeing the growth from, the person who was in her 20s, who completely just believed in and kind of repeated that narrative out to people, and to see where I've come, I think maybe that's part of it too, is just to
it's part of it when it comes to looking at people now that we think are on the wrong story, is like, 15 years ago, I was on the wrong story. So look where you are now, look how you've evolved, and the other thing about the arrogance of us not wanting to let another creature have its own experience is that's the way I'm looking at this whole, international sickness thing. Is I've gone through the upset and the anger and all of that stuff, and now I'm like, everybody's going to have their own experience, and it's none of my business what they decide to experience. And that is such a relief. And that's what the Course, when you feel relief, you're now not in resistance. So you're like, that relief is my frequency going up. A sense of relief is frequency going up. So that's the thing to look for in any situation, is like, how can I feel relief while Mocha has lumps? How can I feel relief around 9/11? How can I feel relief about the current situation? And the most important thing is the cleaning of the projector, which is our minds. And that's kind of bringing it back full circle, right? And I would say this for anybody who's watching, who's having a really hard time with what's going on in the world. And the reason that I'm doing this interview is just for you to have a little inside vision of how the Course might help you, how ordinary people are employing it in their lives, how their lives are improving, how they're able to discern when they're hurting themselves or causing themselves suffering. Because that's, if you want out of this place, if this world's like, this is a crazy, shitty world right now, it's because of how we're looking at it. And this idea that there is evil winning or badness afoot, however you want to look at it, no matter what side of the story you're on, there's this feeling that something bad is happening. what if this is all for the best? What if we are all witnessing things that we needed to see to evolve into our next level of consciousness? And I think that that's what's happening, actually. And 9/11 is a very good example of that, because for some of us, it was so clearly not what the story was that was being told. Building 7 falling down, no plane hit it. Hello, that's very weird, isn't it?
Whoops.
How did a steel reinforced building just suddenly fall down of its own accord?
Oh, office fires.
Yeah, there were 2 little ones. I saw them. So for many of us, this waking up process has been going on for a long time. As we observe what's happening in the world, we're like, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. This doesn't make sense. And of course, for me, in the last couple of years, it's been a resounding, this doesn't make sense. Something's really wrong. But as Jesus says, you can't heal something unless you acknowledge that it exists. And I think what we're seeing now is a bunch of stuff that exists that was hidden before, that was behind a curtain. But for each of us in our own individual healing, our unconsciousness is the curtain, and the Course reveals our unconsciousness by pulling that curtain aside. So as above, so below, as in the macro, so in the micro. Each of us that are waking up are going through the same thing that's going on out there. Is our unconsciousness, which is creating the negative stuff, is being revealed to us. So I think for anyone who wants to shift the way the world looks, is work on your own unconsciousness. And most people don't think they're unconscious until they start doing the Course, and then you're like, oh yeah, shit, I'm really unconscious.
Yeah, if you're a narcissist, come on in.
Well, it's good for everybody, because everybody's got their own version of their own ignorance. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
You just don't know what you don't know. And that's what I found the Course. It's a humbling but empowering experience. So it's a paradoxical thing. You realize how distorted the way you think is, and it helps you become more centered and more grounded and more loving is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, it is so humbling. I was just, right before you said it, that's the word that came to mind. Because spending 20 years in the Army, what was strength to me came from war. It's like the courageousness had something to do with like hyper masculinity and this egomaniacal ish kind of a leadership style. And I have done nothing but get softer and softer and softer. And my last assignment in the military, I guess partially because I knew I was retiring, I was way open. I talked about Zena Allen at my retirement ceremony, as you can remember.
Yeah.
And, but I feel like telling people while I'm in my uniform and they're in their uniform, telling them that I love them and I care about them, it was just so much different. I've always been kind of a loving person, but it was like deeply anchored in my consciousness. And I really, really wanted to connect with people. It wasn't just like I'm just being happy in the moment. It's like, I really, really love you. And I don't know, it felt like I was really shifting energies in that space. And I feel like that's probably why I joined, and part of my blueprint, obviously, that I don't quite have figured out, but is to be that loving presence in that organization and in this whole institution.
So now you have started doing daily Course in Miracles lessons reading on YouTube, and you're reading from my book, A Year of Forgiveness. What precipitated that?
Well, I believe it was guidance from Jesus. I just felt like I wanted to be more vulnerable and share like what motivates me. And I think bringing those two tools together, the Course and the Year of Forgiveness, all that current event channeled material, which applies probably at any time. I don't know. I thought like, this is really going to help people. And of course I want to magnify and amplify your work, because that book is amazing. And now that I'm rereading it and actually not just listening to the video, which is almost passively doing it, like every day when I read the lesson, I'm like, oh my God, this is so exactly the supplemental material that is needed for this particular lesson.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because I've listened to the last couple of days of you reading my book back to me, and that's kind of weird, but that's exactly what's happened to me. I'm like, damn, that's good. Of course, I didn't write it. Jesus channeled it. But the fact is, you know, when I was channeling that material, I wasn't reflecting back on it. I wasn't reading it back to myself as a course student. But now that you're reading it to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I really needed to hear that today. And then I think, what a little miracle that is that here I channeled this book, and then I'm always doing channeling and retreats and all of that sort of thing. And then I'm not even learning the own material that's coming through me. And I thought, well, that's what Sherry's for now. She's teaching me to read my own material. But I think this is it's called A Course in Miracles for a reason. It really works miracles. So I would encourage anyone who's watching this to subscribe to Sherry's channel. It's just your name, Sherry Oler, Oehler.
Yes, that's right.
Sherry Oler. And so Sherry has a very good sense of humor, which comes through in all the videos. So if you think Course in Miracles is a little bit dry, listen to Sherry reading it. It's not at all. So is there anything you'd like to say in closing? Anything that you'd like to, just kind of encourage people, or to, let people know why they should do the course?
Well, it's for everyone. And when I first bought the Course in Miracles book at a Barnes and Noble in Arkansas, I started reading it, and I felt like I needed to do more investigation. So I bought the biography of Helen Schuckman and the biography of Bill Thetford, who are the original channels. Well, Helen was the original channel that brought it through, and then Bill helped her compile it. But I just think that there's such a beautiful history around this book, and that they were kind of reluctant to say it was Jesus, openly and publicly. So I think what I want to do is bring attention to, that this is Jesus. It actually really is that energy, and we have never been abandoned by him or by, God or anything else. And that you can have like a normal life and be like a regular person and have a very deeply anchored spiritual practice that truly helps you just in your day-to-day life. Like every day for me feels good. Yeah. And I mean, just to say that is a miracle, because I used to be in my head about everything and just be kind of like suffering and blaming myself and, stuff with the animals all the time. And I don't have that chatter anymore. Yeah. And it's like, I want people to know that. Yeah. So,
and I can see your life is unfolding in beautiful ways, with beautiful relationships and opportunities. And it's not like you're sitting by yourself in your room reading A Course in Miracles. You've got this really interesting life, right?
Yes. It's great. I mean, I just retired from the Army, and, luckily the way things are, I don't have to work right now. So I'm living off of my pension. I'm 43 years old. I'm deeply diving into my spiritual practice. I'm also hugely into the mucusless diet healing system, so like I feel like I'm just doing this entire transformation of myself. And I'm also looking forward into like building community with my friends that I've met in the Channeling Jesus community and Carol Morgan's community as well. I mean, we're all the same. But it just feels like the course has been a catalyst for me. And as long as I continue focusing on helping other people and being a friend and a big sister or whatever is needed in any situation, that the universe is going to keep putting these opportunities in front of me. And I'm never really going to have to struggle. Like I'm going to have people to lean on, and this course to catch me immediately when my mind starts wandering. Yeah. So it's just been such a blessing. And I feel like I'm just getting started. Like I really feel like reading the lessons like this and making the commitment to do it every day, which I'm only, 32. So it's like, okay, Sherry, there's 365. I mean, I plan on moving this summer. So this process is going to take me through comfortably living here to being in an upheaval and then ending up wherever the world I'm going to go. Yeah. So, but I'm not afraid of anything. I feel like everything that I need I'm going to need is going to be there for me. Yeah. The people will be there, the resources, and yeah, it's created such peace in my life.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for talking about your experience. And Sherry's going to come help look after my dog Delphi while I'm doing a retreat here. And just so you know, we are going to be live streaming the retreat, which is on the 8th to the 10th from Sedona. So I'll put the link for those live stream sign-up sheets in the description below. And yeah, we're going to have a fun time. So yeah, I'll be doing my early morning walks with Delphi and Sherry in a few days. That'll be a lot of fun.
See you soon.
Okay, thanks, Sherry. And
Thank you.
I'll talk to you after we stop recording.
All right. Bye, everyone.